Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into a massive tension that sits right at the very heart of our modern society. We're looking at how democracies actually monitor their most powerful national security and intelligence agencies. Because, let's be real, we all want to be kept safe. But without proper checks and balances in place, the very tools used to protect us can so easily be turned against us.
Let's kick things off with a stark reality check from the Council of Europe Commissioner for Human Rights. They flat out described the current state of democratic oversight of security services as woefully inadequate. Wow, woefully inadequate. That immediately establishes the high-stakes reality we're dealing with here. We aren't just talking about some theoretical abstract problem. We are talking about a systemic failure happening right now that leaves our fundamental freedoms incredibly vulnerable.
And honestly, there's a very clear reason why public trust is practically non-existent right now. Over the last 2 decades, we've seen just a continuous stream of controversies. Think about it, from the post-9/11 era of secret detentions and extraordinary renditions of terror suspects that involved European services, all the way to the massive digital dragnets exposed by former intelligence contractor Edward Snowden. Recent history has proven time and again that unchecked security services operating in the shadows pose severe, severe risks to the rule of law.
So to figure out how we actually fix this incredibly complex issue, our explainer today is going to systematically break down the core of this paper. We're going to cover, number 1, the oversight problem, 2, the impact on human rights, 3, who exactly watches the watchers, and 4, the path to democratic reform.
All right, let's jump right into part 1, the oversight problem, a history of overreach.
Look, intelligence abuse definitely isn't a new phenomenon, right? It's just evolved. Back in the Cold War, we saw systematic, physical human rights violations by secret police forces, like the Stasi in East Germany or the Securitate in Romania. Then, moving into the early 2000s, the focus really shifted to aggressive counterterrorism tactics, meaning secret detentions and international renditions. And today, in the digital age, the threat has morphed into something totally invisible but completely omnipresent: mass electronic surveillance. The methods change, absolutely, but the need for oversight remains urgently constant.
Which brings us to part 2, impact on human rights, agitating the stakes.
Because, let's face it, our modern reality is entirely digitized. Our chats, our locations, our interests, they're all online. And because of this, the most common human rights interference by security services today is digital. Agencies are aggressively exploiting our digital footprints, sweeping up communications data and metadata in ways that deeply, deeply test the absolute limits of our privacy.
The source material actually categorizes this damage into 4 distinct areas. It ranges from extreme physical violations, like arbitrary detention, all the way to the constant erosion of our privacy and family life through bulk data collection. It creates a massive chilling effect on freedom of expression when journalists, NGOs, and politicians are being monitored. And it can even compromise the right to a fair trial if security services are intercepting privileged lawyer-client communications. The entire justice system can be severely compromised by that.
Now, a really critical technological leap we need to wrap our heads around is called computer network exploitation, or CNE. Listen, this isn't just tapping a phone line like in the old movies. This is the highly intrusive practice of government agencies actively hacking into computer systems to monitor, extract, or even manipulate data. It represents a huge technological leap that allows security services to bypass standard legal protections almost entirely, often operating totally under the radar of any judicial checks.
And the really crucial shift here is the move away from targeted surveillance, which focuses on specific individuals with an actual legal warrant, to untargeted, bulk surveillance. This is a massive societal dragnet. The problem here isn't just the loss of privacy. No, it creates a dangerous chilling effect. When citizens know their data is being vacuumed up in bulk, they begin to self-censor. They change what they read, what they write, and who they associate with, simply because they're fearful they are always being watched.
Okay, moving on to part 3. Who watches the watchers? Evaluating the current mess.
So the paper evaluates the 3 main oversight bodies used across Europe, and honestly, it reveals a dangerously fragmented system. Let's break it down. Parliamentary committees. They have the democratic legitimacy because they are elected, but they frequently lack access to highly classified intelligence. Then you have independent expert institutions. They have excellent technical and legal know-how, but they often lack the political power to actually force compliance. And judicial bodies? Well, they offer true independence in authorizing warrants, but the laws they enforce severely lag behind modern technology. For instance,
Judges are rarely required to authorize untargeted bulk surveillance. It's a mess. Every single body has glaring, dangerous blind spots.
Let's actually slow down for a second and look at this massive bureaucratic hurdle that makes everything so much worse. It's called the third-party rule, or originator control. Imagine your country's intelligence agency gets data about you from a foreign partner. Under this rule, your own domestic oversight bodies cannot scrutinize that information without the foreign agency's explicit permission. It effectively allows international intelligence sharing to act as a complete black box, totally blocking domestic democratic oversight.
This brings us to part 4, the path to reform, structural solutions.
So, we know the system is broken, but how do we fix it? Well, the Council of Europe provides a clear, actionable roadmap. To build a stronger system, the text highly recommends a strict, 3-phase authorization process. First, before any intrusive surveillance begins, an independent body must conduct a prior review to make sure everything is above board. Second, during this totally secret process, a security-cleared public interest advocate is actually brought into the room to argue on behalf of the targeted citizen. And finally, step 3, even after authorization, an independent body conducts an after-the-fact review to ensure the surveillance was executed lawfully. Checks before, during, and after.
Furthermore, when citizens suspect their rights have been violated, they need a place to complain, obviously. But those complaints need teeth. The paper insists that oversight bodies must have the power to make legally binding orders. They need the absolute authority to quash unlawful warrants, halt operations in their tracks, and force the deletion of illegally obtained data. Simply offering polite, non-binding recommendations to intelligence agencies? Yeah, that is no longer sufficient.
But here's the kicker. Absolutely none of these structural reforms are going to work without the right resources, period. Overseeing modern digital intelligence collection is incredibly complex. Oversight bodies must have unrestricted access to all classified information, no exceptions. They have to have the ability to directly hire independent tech specialists who actually understand the complex algorithms being used against us. Plus, their budgets must scale up right alongside the growing budgets of the intelligence agencies they're monitoring. And finally, we need periodic, independent evaluations of the oversight bodies themselves, just to ensure they aren't falling behind.
As we wrap up this explainer, we really have to face the reality of the digital age. Security services possess unprecedented technological power today, and the systems meant to keep them in check are genuinely struggling to keep up. So, given the sheer scale, the complexity, and the absolute secrecy of these agencies, is your country's system truly watching the watchers? Thank you for learning with us today.